Today's show is sponsored by Electro Voice. EV is celebrating its 80th anniversary and is part of Bosch Communication Systems, a leader in design, manufacturing, and marketing of sophisticated audio, wireless, multimedia, aircraft, broadcast, and communication equipment for commercial, professional, and industrial customers. Visit them today at electrovoice.com. Joining me today on the Culture Catch, we're very honored to have with us the artist Eric Finzi. Eric, welcome to the show.
I'm Eric Finzi. Why don't you watch me polymerize on Culture Catch?
Working with within this medium is difficult. It's a very toxic environment.
It is.
You've got your hazmat suit on.
Yeah, it's basically an exercise, and it's almost like a facility you would have for if you're working with some toxic microbe, like tuberculosis that would kill people. You've got to be almost that careful, because if you're working with it on a day in, day out basis, if you breathe this stuff, eventually it kills you.
Take us through the process. I mean, it's tough to manipulate. This resin sets rather quickly.
Right.
How do you work with it?
Basically, I'll set up, first you have to be garbed from head to toe. You can't breathe any of the air in the room. And then you're supposed to look at this stuff, and you have to look down because you're painting flat. So if you're painting a big painting, you have to mentally project what is this thing going to look like when you hang it on a wall, because you can't hang it on a wall until it's dry. So I will conceptualize what I want to do. I used to make preliminary sketches, and then I stopped making because I realized complete waste of time, because it's never going to turn out. So it became more of literally going with the flow and having to react quickly. And that's what I really enjoy, because within an hour's time, I've got to make all these aesthetic and non-aesthetic decisions, and I can't really, I can't think about it. I have to just do it. And sometimes I think it's better to just do something than to think about it. If you think too much, you're gonna lose that.
What do you exactly use to manipulate the resin?
I actually use a syringe with a 18-gauge needle attached to it, and I draw this stuff up and I squirt it through the needle, and I draw with this needle. And the thing about that is I have to wait until it's a certain temperature to get a certain look. And if I wait too long, I push down on the plunger, nothing happens. It's polymerized in the syringe. And if I don't wait long enough, then it doesn't actually give me the kind of line that I want. So the whole thing of my drawing is temperature-dependent drawing. So it's kind of a unique process, because I'm having to control the temperature at the same time that I'm trying to draw. So it makes it more difficult, but it also adds another layer of complexity that you can actually see in the painting. Like certain parts feel different, and I think they feel different because they are. Like this is a 60-degree part of the painting, and this is 80.
Your new show is using this Alice in Wonderland kind of Lewis Carroll thematic element running through it. Was that a serendipitous aspect for you, or did it have to do with the layering that you're using? Did it come together that way? Are you calculated when you get ready to present a new show? Do you have themes you want to explore?
I do have themes. In this case, I was fascinated by the man, Lewis Carroll, also known as Charles Dodgson.
That's right.
And I was fascinated by his dual persona of Charles Dodgson making these photographs of all these little kids, and then the books, which are amazing, and that whole Victorian sensibility, which was so taboo for so many years, like possibly even more than a century after these photographs were taken. They're always shoved away in a corner. Oh no, he's just a novelist. Don't bother looking at his photos. His photos are great. They're mesmerizing. It's the way he staged these young children into these mythical scenes, which I find very amazing. And there's a lot that we can read into it. And the nature of the epoxy sort of flows right into his theatrics, because the epoxy, in a way, is a movie. It's theatrical. So my paintings are theatrical. Why do I say that? It's because I'm the director for the paintings, but I don't actually make the paintings. So the resin has its own intelligence.
Eric, I love this painting. I mean, there's a lot of great pieces, but for me, for some reason, this is really the epicenter of the entire show that you've got. Tell me about this, this particular work.
This is Alice, actually imagined from Lewis Carroll's book, when she's picking up this paper and she's about to read something, which is going to tell her sort of the next step and what she's supposed to do. I think one thing that you're feeling is the way she's sort of melting away and disappearing, and yet you can look at her and you feel her sort of wistful look. You can't even put in words exactly what her expression is, but yet you can recognize it. So, and I've always been interested in facial expressions and the way people look, and I find that with the resin, as it's moving very slowly, if I take a propane torch and just move it along in different ways, it's interesting how, I guess, my unconscious gets into the action here and moves these little wisps of paint that just kind of flowing off and creating their own dynamic. And that's what I really love about it, that I've created this expression, but I haven't really, because the resin is moving itself. And I can't move it that precisely with the propane torch. So it really is a bit of alchemy, the way she comes up with an expression when I didn't actually do that. It's like, where did that come from? And sometimes it's as big a mystery to me, but yet all my paintings wind up having these incredibly elusive expressions that are complex, and yet I didn't actually put them in there. Visually, I always find that serendipity is probably the best leader. So a lot of things that what I've done, just sort of, it happens. Like my current medium, epoxy resin, so making fiberglass sculptures, and then I used to be a painter before I was a sculptor, and I thought one day, why not just see what happens if I tried painting with this stuff instead of using it as a glue or a cover, the sort of normal uses. And then when you specifically don't do what the manufacturer tells you to do, you get some really interesting things.
This is your Jefferson Airplane song painting, right? One pill makes you big, one makes you small.
You got it.
Were you listening to the airplane when you were doing
I
it?
actually wasn't, but I was thinking about Alice and, the whole concept of being stuck in a house and being 30 feet tall and having to squish yourself inside this house, and you've got one arm out the window and you can't get your arm back in because you're too big. I mean, that's pretty amazing. 1860 and you're doing that, and here's Alice and she's just feeling that. You can feel that. Well, the story is that he was actually, punting down the river, and he had Alice Liddell and her friends in there. She said, tell me a story, and he just started.
He started going.
It started going. It's like whatever got the kids more entertained, he went that way.
Right.
And then after he told it, then they came to say, something like, Mr. Dodgson, you must write that down for us. And then he wrote it down. He still thought it was nonsense. And then Alice's mother came to him and said, you must publish this. Because he wasn't even, this was just, a story on while punting.
Again, we're coming back to that word serendipitous. Mm-hmm. Serendipitous for him, your painting, working with the resin.
Absolutely.